Hello and welcome everybody to The Last Resort. This is one of my epic settlement builds located at Spectacle Island. And in today's video we're going to take a look at several of the techniques that I used to create some of the very interesting architecture in this build. Now I did build this on the Xbox One. I didn't use mods or console commands. I only used vanilla and DLC content. Therefore, if you play on a console, you could build this or other builds similar, hopefully using some of the techniques that I'm going to show in this video. Now, it is a fully functional settlement. When I started the build, I had 19 settlers. When I finished the build, I had 28. I do expect that number to increase to 35 or 36. Now, before we get started, I'd like to apologize. Even though this video is 35 minutes long, it's nowhere near enough time to show all the neat things that I put into this build. So, enough jibber jabber. Let's get started on how I built it. Okay, here we are in the beginning of the build, and before we get started, I'd like you guys to notice the top bar. I did clear everything out and zeroed out the build. Now, I did end up weapon modding or glitching, whatever you'd like to call it, this build one entire build size. So this build actually turned out to be twice the size that Spectacle Island normally will allow you to build in. And to build something this massive, that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. Now what I'm showing here is how I set up for my first block, or my first piece to go in. To me, the first piece sets the tone on the way the build is actually going to turn out. So I've already had the block in. I was just showing you how I put it in there, or how I came up with the position to put the block in, and I'm just going to run some blocks across this valley to the other side. I'm going to try to use this entire valley as my build. Now I'm going to run a few floorboards this direction, and basically what I'm doing is I'm just seeing how it's lining up and if it's going in the direction I want it to go. Now I've got most of the arena layout done. And what I've decided I want to do is build this cool little circular staircase around the back. It'll be 4 blocks long that I just walked on and 4 blocks this way. And as you can see, that little building is going to be in my way. So I've got to build this in a way where I can still build it and get the blocks around there, but not be hindered by that building. And so I'm going to show 2 little segments here real quick. The first one here is just to start off. I'm going to go ahead and use the quarter floorboards located in the wood section. And the reason is because instead of using big floor planks and being all bulky, these are a little bit smaller, and it'll help me get around that corner without that building interfering. Now I'm turning this board 1 board plank to the right, and that's what I'm going to use to make this curve. It should I've calculated it, and it should work out, and it actually does. So now what I'm going to do is throw a couple of more of these quarter pieces over. That way it's completely out of the way, and then I'll build everything over there, and then I'll add the steps in where I want them to from the right. So I'm actually building my stairs in a different location, and then I'll move the stairs over by snapping them to where I want them. Okay. Now, we've got the steps done on this side. They look great. Really turns out nice how that looks. I'm really enjoying that. And I'm excited to get to the other side and get that one started. And notice how it curves right around that building. You know, and if I was building it the way I'm going to show you how in this segment, I would have never been able to get that close to the building and get the turn. Now, there's a couple of things to take note here. I could have used these multi-plank boards, but instead I'm going to use quite a bit of these junky floorboards. And the reason is because they're actually pretty useful in measurements because they have gaps or blank spots where the junk boards come together. Now, I've already laid out the first piece. We're getting ready to put the second piece or the second step in. And we're just going to mess around here and throw a few pieces in, and I'll just explain to you why I'm doing what I'm doing as we're doing it here. Okay, let's get that one in. There we go. Now we'll grab this one, bring it over. This is going to be our second step. And if you notice, there's a little hole or gap in the junk floorboard. And the reason I like to use that is because I don't have to count every damn board on these other nice planked boards. And it's just a way to bypass counting and making sure I'm in the middle of the board. That hole and that board ends dead center of the length of the board. So that's why I'm using it. Now, if you noticed, I went 2 boards wide. Now, the reason I went 2 is because on the quarter board I went 1. If you would have added another quarter board to the length of that, it would have reached 2 boards at its end. So that way I'm keeping it the same way even though it looks like I'm not. And we're just going to throw a couple of more steps in so you guys can see how to do this. If you would like more information on how I build stairs or steps or curves, I do have videos on my YouTube channel that do explain these techniques more in depth. And we'll just complete the process and keep on building. Okay, now we've got our steps completed. Oh, that looks so nice. I can't wait for that to get finished, which actually is now. But now in this little segment, what I'm wanting to do is show you guys a real quick technique on how I place these cages into an already built structure instead of building the structure around them. It's extremely simple. It's not complicated. You've probably seen this technique before, but I'm going to show you again real quick so that way you can see how I did it. Now, I've laid down a junk floorboard, and I'm going to go ahead and put the cage on top of it. And it doesn't really matter if it's too centered up or not. You're going to line it up once you get it into the wall. Now, I'm going to make sure that I'm far enough away from my build, because what I'm going to do is press and hold A down. And what that does is it grabs everything connected together. And as you can see, the 1/8 wall board, whatever you want to call it, is green, and the floorboard's green. And as long as them stay green, I can put that cage anywhere I want to, into anything I want to. And so we went ahead and inserted it in there. I lined it up already. It's nice and straight. Oh, that looks good with the other cage, but oh, this cage is a little too high. We're going to have to work on that later. Okay, now what we've done is gone to the other side of the wall. And the hole in the wall is where the cage actually sticks out. And as you can see from the cage to my right, how far it sticks out. So what I wanted to do was build some of these curved concrete walls and, stick with the curved round wall look. I want to put the Nuka-Cola bottles up there later on. And this little technique is just showing you how I snap these pieces to walls that you normally can't snap these to, which are the foundation floors and concrete floors. Okay. Now with all that in, what I've decided to do is build some stairs going up each side. Now I've already got most of the stairs in here where we're looking, but we need to put some stairs here on the side. Now once again, I do have some videos that show this in greater detail, how I build these. But this is just a quick look at one of the 100 ways you could actually do this. What I've done is I've already laid down a floorboard for the first step. I'm going to put another floorboard in. I'm going to move it out of the way. Then I'm going to grab this concrete wall and I'm going to bring it over and snap it to the board. And as you can see, now it's pushed the one board forward the width of the concrete wall. I take that out, just set it down over there because we're going to need it a bunch more times. Put that one in, and now there is my first step. And all we have to do is just add the step pieces in, which we're going to do right here. And we'll just continue this process all the way up until we hit the floor on the other side. And we'll put this board in real quick so we can snap another step in. And there you go, the beginning of the stairwell on that side. Okay, now I've got all the steps completed, and what I want to do is build a wall along this edge. But I want to do concrete and glass windows. So there's a couple of problems that arise when you try to mix the different items together. Now I just snapped the glass to the top of the concrete floor on this side, so you could see there would be a gap between that and where the wall would be. When you snap a wall to a foundation piece, it actually sinks lower than the height or the top of the floor. And as you can see right there, see that gap? I would have a gap between my window and the wall. It's a quick fix. It's this simple. I'm just going to grab a floor. I'm going to throw it down here. I'm going to line it up on this block. And do take note. You really need to spend time and get this in as close as you can. If you don't, once you build your wall several boards long, you could start getting off an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches or more. And so it's very important to keep that as close as possible. Now we snap the concrete wall to that. It's lifted the wall up one floor higher, which you can see I just pulled it out there. And we'll snap the other piece in. And now you can see my concrete wall is as high as the top of the concrete foundation. Now the second problem that would arise is if I snap this window to the concrete foundation, it would be offset on the outside of the wall and it would not match up. So it's a simple fix on this one too. Just take out a floor, snap in a wall, one of the barn walls, snap your glass walls to that, and it lines up perfectly on the outside of the concrete. Okay, here we go. Now I've got several of my walls in with the glass, and what I want to do is above the entrance here is I want to offset a glass piece. So I took one of the concrete floors out, or the floor pillars, and I used a quarter board and snapped one halfway into the other. And then I just snapped up a barn wall, went ahead and put up the glass, and as you can see, now I'm offset by 1/2 the width of the glass. And instead of it being all square, it just has a real nice look. Now what I wanted to do here was show some of the pain in the butt some of these objects snap together, how they snap together. Because of the length of video, I didn't want to put that all in, so we just jumped right to it and snapped in the concrete. And now I'm going to have a nice little concrete border around my glass that will really give me a look that you just normally wouldn't get by just throwing up the barn walls or wood walls. And we'll just throw one more concrete piece in real quick. And there you go. You can really see how nice that looks now. Okay, let's move over to one of our attractions. This is going to be my rocket boats. And what I want to do is build steps here, but I don't want them to be like the regular steps I've built. I want them diamond shaped. And they're going to diamond shape kind of generally in this direction. And they're going to be offset on two sides, not just one side. Now the way I do this is almost exactly the same as building regular steps. I go ahead, lay down a floorboard that I'm going to use as the step. And once again, I'm going to spend a little bit of time and make sure I get it exactly perfect, or as close to perfect as I can. Takes a lot of patience and a lot of time. And I do have an elite controller, and that sucker is very touchy, and sometimes it'll jump me right out of where I'm wanting to be. Okay, now that I got the floor in, let's grab this piece, and I'm going to use it as a marker. And then we're going to take the floor that we just put in out, and we're going to go ahead and snap a regular floor into it. Normally I would just use boards and then snap my stairs in later, but we're going to build the stairs as we go. Now I'll take the concrete piece, and if you notice, I put it in the back this time. The reason is I have a little more room in the back. It doesn't matter if you do it from the front or the back. It still gets the same results. Now this is the difference. I'm going to use the same concrete wall, put it on the other side, the same marker, move the concrete wall, and grab the floor and move it over. Now I have 3 of the first beginning steps of my diamond plated steps. Okay, moving over to the next attraction, I have the bumper cars. Now, there's a lot that went on here, and I don't have time to show everything. So we're just going to skip around to the major parts. I've already put the poles in, and I've already got it ready for the cars. Now there's a couple of ways you could put the cars in, and I'm going to show you 2. The first way is with the old carpets. Of course, you know, we love the carpets. They help us out with a lot of stuff. But there's an issue that happens when you use the carpets. And I'm going to go ahead and move around here a little bit and try to get into a position where I can see the pole and see the car to get it lined up the best that I can. And I'm going to use that little knob on the back of the car as my guideline. Now this is the issue that you have when you use the carpets. The piece will drop down into the floor. So the second technique a guy can use, or gal, is a floorboard. So I just pulled out a 1/4 floorboard, and I'm going to use that to put it in instead of the carpet. And what this does is it lifts the car up off of the ground far enough that when you take it out and it drops down, it will drop down damn near flush with the floor. And once again, I'll use that little thing in the back of the car, whatever it is, to line it up. And then boom, it drops down, and look at that. Now it's sitting on top of the floor, beautiful. Okay, now in this part here, what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to build some bunk beds. Even though this settlement is huge, my living quarters are very small. So I need to double stack these beds up. And what I'm doing here is showing how I'm making a jig. I'm not going to do this every time to every bed. So what I did is I pulled out the first bed, lined it up to the floor, pulled out these little posts that are in the barn section, and lining them up just the best I can to the bed. Now what I want to do is kind of cover the bed rail, but not much more. Okay, now that I've got them all lined up, and you only have to do this once. You can actually do this like we did the bumper cars. You can use the carpets or you can use the floorboards. Now this is the difference doing this. A carpet will make the bed sink into the floor, while a floorboard will make the bed rise above the floor. So it just depends on how you set it up, how you want the bed to drop. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these little railings or these little posts into what I think is about center of the bed. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab the carpet with the bed on it and bring it over, and I'm going to try and line it up the best I can where the railings are not showing. Now since I've already done this, I'm just giving you a quick look of how I set the jig up. And as you can see, I still have a little more adjustments to do. But I don't need to because I've already made my jig and it's up and ready to go. Now there's a reason why I'm that high in the air, and we'll come to that a little bit later in this part. But we'll move these on up. And the bed is already aligned the way we like it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab another bed, which is our top bunk, and we're going to move it into position to grab it. And we're going to use this 8th wall, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I call it an 8th concrete wall. And it's extremely important that you get it as straight and as lined up to the bed as you can. It's very hard to see how to line this bed up because of the limited view that you have. Now, it took me 2 or 3 tries to get the bed the height that I wanted, which is right at the top of the bottom post, or the bottom of the second row of posts. Now that I've got the height the way I want it, I'm going to show you how I actually square up the bed when I can't see very well. And I use these 2 posts to do it. And once I've got it lined up where everything is equal on both sides, all I do is just bring it straight down and bang, there it is on top. And I am off a little bit, so I'm just going to adjust it a teeny bit here, and there it is. And the bed is pretty well lined up. Now let's go ahead and snap in our other posts. They're in. Bang, they all went in. Good. Now, the reason why we have the 3rd row of posts is because we're going to grab the whole thing by pressing A. And if they were too close, we'd grab them and take them in as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete the carpets, and if you watch, the bed will drop. Boom. The bed dropped down, gives me plenty of room for the settler to crawl into bed. And we'll just delete all these pieces away. And all I have to do when I come back for the next beds is just put the floors in that I need to walk on and put the beds on. Now, when I go to grab this, notice how it popped up in the air. It's super easy to fix. Just grab a piece, pop it back, let it go back with B, and it won't pop up in the air on you again. Sometimes that popping up in the air can get really annoying. And we'll just bring it into our bedroom and place it down, and there we go. We now have a fully functional bunk bed, and it looks pretty cool. Alright, now for this little part of a segment, I'm working on the lights on my tower of the motel. And there's a little bit of a problem here, and I just kind of wanted to show you guys how to fix this. I wanted the side curved walls to be the starting of the wall, and then every other 8th concrete block would be taken out. But now I've got 2 in the middle, and I can't get the every other one. Well, this is how easy it is to fix that. Take a concrete wall, and it could be a full one or a half a wall. Take one of these out, and bang, it snaps right to the middle of the concrete wall. Now everything is centered fine. This is an excellent technique to move one of those 1/8-inch pillars a half of pillar in any direction. And what I want to work on here is some of my cool little vending stations. And I wanted to show how I make this. It's pretty simple, but it's not simple. Since a roof will not snap to a staircase, I've got a floor and ceiling piece in, and upper shack floor. There we go. That's what it's called. Therefore, a roof will snap to that. Now, I only want it to stick out half, not the full entire length. Excuse me. So the reason that I've done this is because I'm going to snap another roof into it, and it'll go into the structure that's already there, the prefab. Now, this did take a few minutes to move around and get it in the right position to snap, so I cut it out, and bang, there you go. It snapped in. And now it only sticks out half the distance. And it really gives a nice, like, vendor station awning look. And all you got to do now is snap the walls to it. Okay, now this is the part I've been waiting for. The motel is done. The lights are in. My wiring is in. Everything is almost done and in. But I made a save because the minute that you mess with the electrical, the fields change. And I wanted the fields to stay back the way it was. Now, if you're interested in more about the electrical and how it works, please go check out a couple of my videos. They are fully explanatory on how this electrical works, how you can make fields, how you can run them together, and how you can make lights side by side work with different switches and different electrical conduits. Now, in this part of the video, what I'm showing is how I ran everything together. The very top row is for my park lights. The second row is for my attractions. And as you can see, it goes over, the bottom one goes down, goes into my attraction and the switch that turns that one on. And then the top row continues on because it's going to light up all my lamp posts and lighting that's in my park. The third one is going to be directed to the arena. And here we're just taking a quick look at the top one and all the different places I ran it to. That way, when I flip on the switch, it lights up or gives me the electric I need in all of the area I'm going to want to put lights up in. And there's some more right here in the center. And the reason there's only one there is because, like I said, it's just going to light the park up. And as you can see, it goes to the top electrical conduit. And we're just going to take a quick look deeper into the park. And you can see how they're all running together. Now, this is the last part of my attraction, so the second row will actually end here. And it goes into these cool little rooms I'm going to make as my gambling rooms. I'll have pool tables and whatever in here. And one thing that I want to take note on is that I wanted to put switches for these rooms. But the pole switch, it stuck up too high from the glass. So it stuck up into the glass. The wall switch that you just saw, I didn't like it just sitting on the wall. So I thought, well, ooh, maybe it'll fit in these little display cases, and by God, it did. And they open and close and work perfectly. And I just used a carpet to insert them into the walls where I wanted. And here we go into the first stair casings that we made, and you can see that the wiring continues on. Now the second row here going this way has become the power that actually goes into the arena. And you can see the top line ends there and the bottom one ends there. That will actually go into the arena. Okay, now that everything is almost done, it's about 80 or 98% done. I've gotten so many settlers in here, like I said earlier in the video, that I actually had to make a few structures to house them outside of the build. And so I just wanted to show you real quick some of the cool little ways you can actually put things together and make a cool little building. And they're just real quick looks. Everybody that sleeps here are actually my workers that work the vending stations. You can see the bartender there. And then we'll head on over to where my crops are at. And now this is a spawn point, so that's why I do have defenses up right there. So we'll come on over. Now this is where all of my settlers that work in the crops or work in the fields live. So they got a nice little place over here, and we've got them all dressed in farmhand outfits and skull bandanas. I like it. I like it. Okay, well, that's about all the information I think we can jam into this video today. So keep your eyes peeled out over the next week or two. I'm going to try to get several more videos on this build out, some more techniques on how I built it, and a walkthrough or two. I'm going to stream this on my Twitch channel, so I'll have that on my YouTube channel once I get that done. And we'll take a look at a few things here. A first aid station. We got the cap toss right here. And if you notice, I got settlers working my attractions. That was super easy to do. I just put down a couple of general stores, took the old carpets out, set these countertops on them, and slid it over top of the workstations. It really gives it a authentic feel. I feel like it's ready to be used. They're waiting for me to come up and play the game. And you just don't know how long it took me to stack all those bottles up back there. God, I hope they don't ever fall. Okay, we got the hotel here. I did have some moot fruit here in the entrance. I took it out. I did a little work. I guess I forgot to put them back in. So I'll make sure and get them back in. Got Shepfield there working the front desk of the motel. I did try to find the silliest and stupidest costumes or armor or whatever you want to call it in the game and dressed my settlers up in that. I feel it really gives it a nice theme park or carnival kind of atmosphere. Okay, we got the food court here. Brought a lot of junk in, throwed it down on the tables in the different spots. I feel it gives it a real used look or a lived-in look. And then, of course, what every bar or food court needs, a TV in the wall. Now, I wish I could have got that back in there a little farther to hide the stand, but the stand sticks out farther than the TV, so that didn't happen. Here we'll take a look at one of the light switches in the display cabinet. And it's one of the things I'm most proud about this build, how the electrical works. And as you can see, that lighting turned off there, but everything else stayed on. So if you have more questions on that or how that works, I do have videos on how electrical works in Fallout 4. Here's our staircases that we built in the beginning of the video. Okay, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys to the rest of the video without my jibber-jabbering going on. And like usual, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know if you did enjoy this video, if it was helpful, please hit that like button. Give me a comment. Let me know what you thought. And as usual, please subscribe. That way you can see more of my videos as I get them out. Until next time, everybody, thank you and stay safe.